I hate saying Miami, Ohio, because the official name is Miami University. And as a Midwesterner, I know these things. It's not the University of Miami. But everyone has to say Miami of Ohio or Miami, Ohio.
Well, that's
Anyway, I
that's the
digress.
differentiate from the U,
I understand, but I'm
right?
saying if I said
Yeah.
Miami University, if someone said that to me, I'd know it was Miami, Ohio. But hey,
Maybe I should start referring it to Cornell University of New York, because there is a Cornell
or
College in Iowa.
yeah. Oh, I thought your Cornell was Cornell College.
Welcome to Wait What? Sports Biz Chat with DP and McGhee, the podcast where we take a sometimes cynical, sometimes irreverent, and yes, even a sometimes serious look at the business of sports. I'm your co-host, Tim McGhee.
And I'm David Parro.
David, we did not celebrate our 150th episode. I think that is worthy of celebration.
I do too. I do too.
The fact that
with my water bottle,
the fact that
Caitlin Clark water bottle.
the fact that two people have that much hubris to think that there are people who want to listen to them 150 times is just outstanding.
We're just cranking these things out. We don't have time to sit back and celebrate those milestones.
No, we are the James Patterson of podcasts. What's on your mind?
Well, I do want to spend some time talking about college basketball because, of course, we had Selection Sunday this past Sunday, and action starts tonight in the first four.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like it's a weird poetic justice for the show and for the entire world of sports and the business of sports that in the final of the World Baseball Classic, which will be held tonight, we're recording this on a Tuesday, is going to come down to USA and Venezuela. For whatever reason, it just seems interesting. The numbers, by the way, the viewership have been good. The game is going to be, of course, played in Miami at Lone Depot Park. And I don't know, because we end up, not because we plan it, but we do end up talking about the political intervention in the world of sports. And given what transpired not too long ago in Venezuela, it seems wild. And I'm curious as to whether or not tonight's game is going to break the record, which was from USA versus Japan in the final from 2023, I believe. Where they drew 5.2 million. Japan clearly has a big, and this is U.S. viewership, of course, has a big population base here, and it would do great, certainly in Japan and other Asian countries. But this one could be pretty strong. We obviously have a lot of immigrants here from South America and certainly from the other baseball-playing Caribbean countries on the eastern side of South America and certainly throughout Central America and Dominican Republic, et cetera. So I'm curious as to whether or not it's going to draw, but it's going to be a game loaded with great talent. I know that.
And I think that's going to be the predominant story. I don't think the politics are going to be a big part of the storyline tonight. I think the announcers may say something about it at the beginning. They sort of have to. What I find is humorous is that these games at Lone Depot Park in Miami are averaging 37,000 fans per game. They won't draw that many fans. The Marlins won't draw that many fans in the first 3 months of the season.
No, I'm wondering what the Marlins staff is even thinking. They haven't seen this kind of crowd.
They're like, oh, that's what a crowded stadium looks like. That's what they're thinking. They're so one of those teams that has empty. They have a promotion, empty seat night. Come dressed as an empty seat and you get in free. Listen, I think Venezuela's got some great players. They've always had some great players going back to guys like Luis Aparicio and, back 60, 70 years ago. But I am disappointed at Italy's Cinderella run. And
it was a great Cinderella run.
They were fun to watch. They were a fun team to watch.
Venezuela came in as one of the, pardon the pun, but one of the heavy-hitting teams coming into this, but not certainly USA, Dominican Republic, and Japan, I think, ranked higher than Venezuela. But Venezuela is solid. You're right. They have a good lineup, and there will be people that are tuning in and going, yeah, I know that guy. And that's been the great, I think, story. It certainly always is with the WBC, but this year I think especially with stories like Italy playing well and people going like, well, what's the tie to Italy other than that name sounds Italian? And, obviously there's certain rules that allow these players to play for these other countries. I think it's such a great thing for the sport. And as I said last week, and I don't mean to repeat myself, but great for Major League Baseball as the purveyor of the highest level of this sport, to be able to show that players are playing this game in places around the world that maybe the typical fan didn't think of. Certainly they know of the popularity of the sport in Puerto Rico, the American territory, as well as Cuba, and certainly in places like Venezuela, to some degree in Mexico, or to a large degree in Mexico. To have these other countries and kind of the spotlight on them and identify where these players are coming from, but Major League Baseball is the place where these players all dream of playing. I heard a comment that Judge made saying something about it being bigger than the World Series.
Bigger and more important than the World Series. And I'm a Yankee fan, and even I'm like, dude, you're just saying that because you haven't won a World Series. Something just came across my feed here. Mark DeRosa does realize they have to win tonight.
Yeah, right. That'll be one of the funny stories coming out of this. But
not for him when he loses his job.
No. Well, if he ends up winning the championship,
I don't know.
He came out certainly copped to the whole thing, which I guess he had to do. But he's like,
it's not
correct. I did not know. I did not know that.
That's some weird, wacky stuff there. I did not know that. Magic Baseball is not the toughest gig in the world. It's not like the game is going at a breakneck pace. He gets up in the morning, he talks to his coaches, and they're like, yeah, we got to win tonight. And maybe he didn't. It was just silly.
All right, let's move on. What do you have?
We still do not have an agreement in the WNBA labor negotiations. A full 7 days past the self-proclaimed deadline that the league said would need to be met in order to not have the season delayed. But they have been having marathon sessions every day. I suppose they could break down at any time, but certainly is a good sign that they continue to talk. From what I've read, press accounts, that the revenue sharing number continues to be the big sticking point.
Right. The encouraging side is that they've been going through these marathon sessions like nonstop talking, and that, as you said, is generally a very, very good sign that at some point there could be a breakthrough and the inching closer together. Yeah, but nothing yet, because that's what the headline ends up being, is when you open the story that they haven't come to agreement yet. So the idea of potential lost games and we've known that's been a real possibility here for a bit. But I think that when they went into these sessions with the earnestness and the comments from Breanna Stewart and Caitlin Clark about the importance of getting something done, you felt like that was a nice moment. Like that was it was this last rush to get, that the players were coming around to a better understanding maybe of where they could go. Mm-hmm. But they're certainly holding firm, and these things will be good case studies in negotiation in the future, no doubt.
March Madness hasn't disappointed so far. And the madness hasn't even really begun.
We've had two very key figures on the men's side of the tournament, I will say. In Keith Gill, commissioner of the Sun Belt, we had on some time ago, mostly to talk about football at a non-Power 4 conference level, which was an interesting discussion. But he is the chair of the men's selection committee. And, of course, Dan Gavitt, who was our most recent guest. I mean, two, seriously stout figures. And I just want to say, by typical standards, very little controversy. There's a couple of people, in the big conferences, particularly the SEC, I guess, thinking that every year they're going to have, 14 teams in, with Oklahoma and Auburn not getting in. And interestingly, the team that went undefeated that I think you have to put in Miami, Ohio, lost in their tournament, meaning that opened up a spot for Akron to get in, right, which then squeezed a little more of these things. But those are expected controversies. I don't even know if I'd call them a controversy. What they do is not easy, of course. And I'll just say that I thought Keith's interview with CBS immediately after the selection was really solid.
Yes, and there certainly wasn't the controversy there was last year when UNC made it into the tournament. The controversy is coming from outside of the selection room. Good point. Most notably from Bruce Pearl, who originally said that he didn't think Miami of Ohio should make the tournament if they didn't win their tournament. He backtracked on that, but then he went on to say that he believed Auburn should make the tournament. His son inherited the job from him when he retired last year. He's still on the payroll of Auburn University. When he says things like that, it's not only rife with conflict, it's also lacks, in my judgment, credibility. Especially when Auburn goes 17-16. They were probably on the bubble. They didn't win their tournament, and now they can decide to either go home or go to the NIT.
Yeah.
But I think it was a bit ridiculous that he gets that sort of platform now while he's still on the payroll of Auburn University.
I tend to agree with you. I thought it was an odd choice to have him there. I mean, you said that he backtracked a little on his thoughts on Miami. I hate saying Miami, Ohio, because the official name is Miami University. And as a Midwesterner, I know these things. It's not the University of Miami. But everyone has to say Miami of Ohio or Miami, Ohio.
Well, that's
Anyway,
that's the differentiate from the U.
I understand, but I'm
Right.
saying if I said
Yeah.
Miami University, someone said that to me, I'd know it was Miami, Ohio. But
Maybe I
hey,
should start referring it to Cornell University of New York, because there is a Cornell
Or-
College in Iowa.
Yeah. Oh, I thought your Cornell was Cornell College. So, but I think Bruce
You mean
Pearl.
Cornell University that's going to the ECAC
I think-
semifinals in hockey?
I think Bruce Pearl, if he had his druthers, would say, I don't think that conference should even get an automatic bid for their conference champion, as deemed by the conference to select their conference champion, and that all of the SEC should get in, and maybe 2/3 of the Big Ten. Well, there's some other news coming out. In this era of NIL and everybody, talking about how everything's been ruined in college sports, I continue to be amazed at the numbers that I see in terms of viewership. They're 17% up year over year in men's basketball, and women's basketball had another solid year as too, only up 3%, but still up as the play continues to get better there and the rivalries get better and so forth. But who are all these people that say they hate college sports now and won't watch? But the same people that say that about the NFL, obviously.
Well, again,
There are issues, we get it, but
some of that increase may be attributed to the change in methodology that Nielsen uses.
always a bit there, but that's what we're dealing with now.
Right.
And of course they're taking advantage of that. The Nielsen people love it, the networks love it, the colleges and conferences looking for sponsorship love it.
Yeah. The question is, how do you explain if the numbers go down next year? If you're a
They'll come up.
If you're a media sales guy or you're a sponsorship salesperson.
Well, the PR people on the networks are the best. They always have the right stat to pull.
But we're up 2.5% in that coveted, red-headed, left-handed 18 to 19 demo that every advertiser goes after.
I want to talk about something that I think is potentially one of the biggest developments to hit college sports, particularly college basketball, maybe basketball in general. And that was the Big 12's introduction of an LED glass floor that was meant to be the conference championship was going to be played on it. The women's conference championship was played on it, apparently to no problem. But it had the ability to, you can show graphics on it. And mid-tournament, they had to go back to the wood court because some players were complaining about slipping.
Yeah, Christian Anderson of Texas Tech pulled a groin muscle, had to leave the game.
Well, he might have pulled the groin muscle on a wooden floor, but you can't take that chance. They did the right thing by switching back. I just happen to think that even with this start and stop for this company, I believe it was a German company that supplied this, I think we're going this direction.
I think so too. So it was interesting because Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark originally said, we're using it. He then acquiesced to coaches and players who complain. So good on him for listening to his stakeholders. But I can't believe that they didn't practice on it or play games on it prior to the tournament. Now, you rightfully point out that nothing happened on the women's side. So I don't know, but I definitely agree with you. That's the way things are going. It's sort of the basketball equivalent of the DED dasher boards in NHL.
I mean, I can certainly see it being disruptive to the view, but you can probably control that. And I'm sure they did test that. It hadn't been used in here for basketball. But the ability to deliver, this unending need we have to be entertained and visually stimulated, I think that's part of it. The ability to deliver advertising messages.
It's all about the do-re-mi.
It's all about that. You're absolutely right. That is what it's about. I think the careful thing that everyone needs to consider when doing these developments is how does it affect the in-arena audience? Not that that's the most important thing, but how does it affect that, and how does it affect the viewing experience, if at all, during a game? And I think that if you're going to go for the money on that, is have not only a PR line, but have a good story as to why it's going to enhance the fan experience. Mm-hmm. But I'm old school, and I still believe in that concept. Like, what's the experience for the people that view it and drive these numbers that we're talking about?
I couldn't agree more.
Anything else on college that we need to hit?
Not on the college side. That checks all my boxes.
All right. If we have a little time before we welcome in a guest.
NFL announcing that they're looking at Thanksgiving Eve games, which would, I think, bring them up to 272 days a year where there's at least one game. Yeah. No, I think they are going after that, talking about, desirable audiences. They're going after that very important home from college, out with your buddies at the bar night before Thanksgiving crowd. So they'll be...
Yeah, I've noticed, because you've mentioned this before, you're very tuned into that tradition, aren't you? You're very tuned into the Wednesday night out with your high school buddies back from the college crowd scene, aren't you?
I haven't done it in 40 years, but...
Well, you knew that tradition to me wasn't when we were in college. Maybe it was. Maybe it was more Eastern, Island? But it didn't hit on Long...
Any excuse to drink.
Yeah. Right. Well, it definitely was a thing with my kids as they were coming through that. So I remember that piece. Maybe I do. Maybe it's just so long ago for me that I don't remember it as being a thing.
We would go to the bar after midnight mass on Christmas Eve because the bars in New York are open till 4 a.m. So, as long as you got home before Santa, you were okay.
It's certainly not surprising. We talk about this all the time. Their ability they certainly own Thanksgiving, even though there are other things going on. Obviously, those games that run on Thanksgiving always hit very big numbers, and they'll do well on this. It'll certainly put that premium on that big data number because so much of that will be generated coming out of the bar scene.
Yeah, but I do think it's a night where it'll be interesting to see what numbers. On one hand, I'm a homebody, so I'm always home that night, but that's a big travel day too. So are they going to lose people who are traveling to see family?
Yeah, they'll see, right? Every data point that we've ever talked about in relation to the NFL suggests that it doesn't matter.
Yeah. True.
That the number and will their expectation be the same? I mean, do they have a threshold in mind? Probably. Does it work for the players? Does it make that week easier? I would imagine not. I mean, it's a hard week anyways for those teams, and not everybody really loves playing on Thanksgiving, especially guys that have been on the Lions for a long, long time, because they're always playing on Thanksgiving, or the Cowboys, right? They're always on that in that. So we'll see. Has the NFLPA chimed in on this yet?
I have not heard if they have. What they're talking about, maybe they were trying to cut off any criticism or pushback on it, was teams coming off the bye would play. It's a tough game. You're either playing coming off a long break, or you're going off a short break.
Yeah. All right. We have an interesting, maybe not the typical guest that we would have on the show, but one that we're very excited about chatting with. So we'll be right back.
It's time for our guest.
We like to shine a light on a wide variety of subjects concerning the business of sports, and that includes emerging properties that are carving out growing, loyal followings. One such property is Major League Volleyball. We're delighted today to welcome one of the league's brightest stars, Brooke Nuneviller of the Omaha Supernovas. I could be reading an hour if I covered even half of Brooke's accomplishments as an athlete, but I'll try to abridge that a bit so we can get to the questions. Brooke was named first-team All-League in each of the first 2 seasons of Supernova play. She was named 2025 Outside Hitter of the Year. She's the all-time franchise leader in kills, attacks, kills per set, and digs. She's a 4-time international medalist playing for the U.S. national team. At the University of Oregon, she earned All-American honors 4 times, including being named to the first team in her senior season. And in addition to being one of the stars of MLV, she's also a top player in Athletes Unlimited's unique volleyball league. So with that, Brooke, welcome to the show.
Wow, David, you pulled some good highlights, I gotta say.
Well, we try on this show for sure. Well, listen, we really do appreciate and we're looking forward to this discussion. So if we can go ahead and jump right in, you're about a third of the way through the season right now from a pretty high level. Can you give us a sense of how you feel the season is going? And I want you to pay particular attention, if you could, as to how it matches up with your expectation in this, what technically is the first year of Major League Volleyball, even though you've been with the Supernovas for a couple years, starting the original, which was somewhat of a merger between the two entities. So just kind of match up your expectation, and feel free to talk about how you feel the season is going from a kind of on the court standpoint as well.
Yeah, from a player standpoint, I wish I could give you more, but it's been a really seamless transition, honestly, from the previous Professional Volleyball Federation is what we used to be called to now Major League Volleyball. We have a lot of the same coaches, a lot of the same ownerships of the previous leagues, but I think the things that are going on behind the scenes are like big changes. Like we have some big time hires of new owners and potential future franchises. We also hired a new league commissioner. So I think there's a lot of different things and improvements that have been going on behind the scenes. But from a player standpoint, I would say it's been a really seamless transition. It's really similar to last year amongst some like minor improvements that the players will give feedback to. But yeah, no, it's been great. I think MLV is like a really enticing name rather than PVF. I think like if you look up MLV, it's Major League Volleyball instead of, you wouldn't know what PVF is, but no, it's been awesome, and from a team standpoint, from a Supernova standpoint this season, we're getting over a little bit of a hump. We had a little bit of a losing streak, but I mean, every day we've been getting better in the gym, and I think we're just improving now. So I think we have about 10 more games left of regular season, and then there's a 2-match playoff that you would hopefully do one semi and then one final.
You're playing in Omaha, which is widely considered a hotbed of volleyball in the United States, one of the top, if not the top, markets for the sport. What do you think that is? What is it about Omaha that they've taken to volleyball so much? And what's it like to play there in a market like that?
It's been incredible. Last time I spoke with David, I was just saying how we really don't have professional, like your NFL teams, your NBA teams in the state of Nebraska itself. So a lot of the sports fan base, they'll either go outside of the state, maybe like a Kansas City team, or just anywhere else in the country. But within the state of Nebraska, a lot of the fans tend to look towards the University of Nebraska, the Huskers. Like we have a massive, massive Husker fan base in the state of Nebraska. And I would say that's probably one of the biggest fan bases for a college team or just a college university in the entire nation. So I think before we had the Supernovas, a lot of that attention went to the University of Nebraska. Their football program used to be very, very popular, and now they're getting better and better. Over the last decade or so, I would say the volleyball team has just been the most successful, and they've had the most eyes on them. And so the fact that we were able to start a professional volleyball team in the state of Nebraska in the right moment of college volleyball for the Huskers, I think it kind of like propelled attention to us, and now we've gained a really incredible fan base for the Supernovas themselves.
By the way, I couldn't believe coming out of the Selection Sunday show that the Nebraska men's team has never played in an NCAA tournament. That was like the most interesting thing that, to me, that came out of that show. That was mind-boggling. So when we met, it was at a Talisman event, actually, and there was another person there that we've had on the show before, kind of a legend in the sports industry, Tom Fox. And he talked to us about why he was high on Major League Volleyball, and he believed it, where it was going. And so I equate what I want to ask you next with kind of that meeting, but there are a lot of properties vying for attention, including some women's leagues that get a lot of attention, NWSL and, of course, WNBA. What makes you so bullish on the upside for MLV?
I've told this to so many people because just as new professional leagues are emerging in the States, like that's a very popular question. I would say that WNBA is following the NBA. The NWSL is following a lot of men's professional soccer popularity amongst not only the States but also the world. There's a lot of sports, female sports, that have followed a very popular men's sport, and just how history has presented itself. Men's sports have dominated a lot of it, and so now female sports are starting to take the lead. But what's interesting about the sport of volleyball is that the main attention and the main popularity is actually the female side, and so we haven't had like a men's side to follow. There's pros and cons to that. One, like we're kind of at the lead, but two, like we don't get the funding that is backed up by like the NBA and just other male-dominated sports. So I think like what's really exciting is that now the attention is on the sport of volleyball. And as I mentioned before, I think that starts with college volleyball. It's just exponentially increasing viewership and just popularity over the last few years, and now that's transitioning to the professional world as well. But I think we have superstars that are coming out of the college game that are now entering the pro game, and those attention is just going to follow to professional volleyball. But now that the attention's on it, I think the female just side of the sport is just going to propel, and it's just going to continue to draw more and more.
She answered that like way better than Fox did, if you ask me. TV thing.
I'm not going to disagree. Brooke, you started your professional volleyball career in Turkey. What was it like playing overseas, in Turkey in particular, and how did that shape your view of the need for a successful professional volleyball league here in the States?
I had an incredible experience overseas, and before the last 3 seasons here in the States, that was the only option for college players, and a lot of us don't even really have that much information leaving the college game into like what was considered the overseas professional experience. I think we had to reach out to a lot of vets that have been in the game for a while that were in Turkey or Italy or wherever. We had to reach out to overseas coaches. We had to have conversations with agents in the last few months of our senior season. So it was really just unknown territory, and then you kind of jumped right into it. Luckily for me, like I jumped into a really strong league. I learned a lot from my coach. My team was incredible. You definitely get like kind of a cultural shock at first. You have to make some adjustments, not even just like in the country of Turkey, but also just the sport. Like people overseas just play the game a little bit differently from country to country. They have different styles and things. So definitely an adjustment, but just something that I've never taken for granted. Even the hardest times I had like probably like some of the biggest mental struggles of my professional career so far started in Turkey. And it's just with all those little adjustments, obviously you're now a rookie in the professional game in one of the strongest leagues in the world, like you're going to be a little bit humbled. And so I think like I learned a lot from that, but just had an incredible experience. And then bringing that back to the States, every single person, unless you were a rookie coming out of college, had played overseas. So they were kind of emulating their experiences and sharing what makes a strong professional league here in the States. But I didn't even realize that the U.S. was getting a professional league until we started in January of 2024. I didn't realize anything until May of 2023. So it was like 6-7 months until our next season, and I was still getting information, and I kind of just blindly committed to this league and on a leap of faith. You don't even know if you're going to get paid, but it was the best decision I could make, and we're just continuing to build it, and I'm very excited to be a part of it.
Just a quick follow-up. Do you think some of those mental challenges you faced, were they a result of being homesick, or what do you think of what were you healthy your whole time over there?
Physically, yeah, pretty healthy. A lot of players, unfortunately, would quit the sport of volleyball once they went overseas because they do get so homesick. I definitely was homesick. I was in a relationship. You're doing long distance, like you're away from your friends and family, your support system. Even when you go away from college, you're just a short flight away from your parents or brothers, sisters, whatever it is. But yeah, you definitely have to get used to it when you go to a different country. You're all alone. You have to figure out life completely isolated, really. Maybe you don't even have another American on your team. Luckily, I did, and luckily my teammates were incredible. I made awesome friends there. But definitely an adjustment. But I think just like little things, coaching styles, just like I said, if you're a rookie going into professional volleyball in general, it's going to be an adjustment. Playing wise, you have to get better, you have to improve on certain skills. And also the Turkish league, I would say, is currently tied for the strongest league in the world right now with Italy. So it was definitely an adjustment. I would say by the second half, I finally got pretty well adjusted.
What an experience, though. It's nice that you can look back and know that it was a positive experience in all ways, even with some of the challenges. Mm-hmm. You mentioned getting paid a little earlier, but I want to go back to college a little. You left Eugene, Oregon, Ducks of the University of Oregon after 4 great years there. That doesn't seem like it's that long ago, but so much has changed and continues to change in the college space with NIL and potential direct payment to athletes. What are your thoughts on the current situation on that in terms of how you feel about what it means for student athletes going through that experience? I'm just curious as you look at where things are moving, what your thoughts are.
First of all, I am slightly jealous, of some of those athletes that are getting paid.
We appreciate the honesty there.
Yeah.
As well you should be.
Yeah.
Of course you have to be, but at the same time, I think whatever level you're looking at, the fact that you could be a part of what it is now, or if I'm looking at professional volleyball, you're paving the way for hopefully future female professional volleyball players to make millions maybe in a decade or two. But I have mixed opinions, honestly, about NIL. I like to consider myself a very loyal individual. I like to, for example, I was at the University of Oregon my entire career. There was definitely chances to enter the transfer portal, but we went through ups and downs, but I just like to consider myself pretty loyal. It's hard because the transfer portal is used so much now because of reasons like NIL. So I don't love that. I don't love the amount of changes that athletes make to universities. At the same time, how could you not make a change when you're getting offered hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of dollars? If you look at football programs or basketball programs, especially in the men's side, women's basketball as well, they're making a lot of money in NIL. And women's volleyball players too, I think maybe the highest paid athlete could have been up close to $500,000 for women's volleyball. So it's just, as a college athlete, you're looking at that money and it could be life-changing for you. So I don't love NIL because it's kind of making college sports look more of like a professional sporting league, franchise, whatever you want to call it. But I would like for it to go back to, we're going to go get our education and play the sport we love and then transition into the professional world, but also it's leading to pretty incredible opportunities for athletes.
You have a pretty robust social media followings, particularly on Instagram and TikTok. I think I know of at least 2 podcasters who would love to have the following you have. But how important is building your personal brand to your role as an athlete, as an endorser, even getting ready for your post-playing career, which hopefully will be many, many years from now?
It's huge. I think about people ask me all the time, what do you want to do when you're done playing volleyball? And I'm like, I don't know. I got a lot of different degrees in a lot of different subjects because I didn't know what I wanted to do. But I would say social media marketing and just building my brand is a really big part of something I could see myself doing in the future, or at least being part of my job, whatever that may be. So I think it's really big. I think, as I mentioned before, in college with NIL, you're seeing obviously the most elite athletes in their sport getting paid a lot of money, but also you're seeing just a lot of brand opportunities for athletes that have this big following and they can make a lot of money, and professional athletes can do that as well. I think for women's volleyball in particular, as they're slowly getting paid more and more over the years, a lot of athletes are taking advantage of Instagram brand deals or TikTok brand deals and all these things. So I think there's really the harm in having a big social media following is there's a lot of negativity on apps, especially just towards athletes or any failure or anything. But if you can ignore that, there's a lot of positives that you can take advantage from building your brand.
Yeah, I'm curious, as a follow-up on that, have you figured out a way to deal with that in a positive way? Because you need the presence. It's helpful for the sport, it's helpful for you personally, but there's so much out there, right?
Crap.
Have you come to terms with how best to handle that?
Anything in life is going to have negativity, and unfortunately it can just be kind of targeted on social media. Especially even this season, our team, we had a 7-match losing streak that was not fun. I think we were really good at trusting the process and trying to get better every single day in the gym, but no one sees that. No one sees, what your day in and day out looks like. No one sees like how hard you were working in the gym to try to like not get that loss or really get that win the next match. But all the fans see is like any failure that you have on the court.
Yeah.
Truthfully, for me, as an athlete, like you really don't want to see that. I think like there's a lot of tools you can use. You can mute things. You can just avoid like going on certain accounts. But at the same time, like you have to be on those apps if you want to continue to build that brand.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of positive self-talk. You can't let because at the end of the day, it's other people's opinions. They're not in the gym with you. You kind of just have to trust in your inner circle.
Tim and I have just learned to embrace like people calling us idiots on TikTok, but they haven't ripped us too bad. Mm-hmm. For like, what are you old guys doing on TikTok? But
David, you need to be honest with Brooke.
Nobody
cares enough to trash talk us on TikTok.
Yeah, it depends on our post.
Usually something stupid I say. I know that.
No. Well, you're the more entertaining one of the two, so stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, Joe Pesci liked me in Goodfellas.
Kind of going from that subject, Mizuno is certainly one of the most visible endemic products involved in the sport of volleyball, and they've been there, right? They've been there a long time providing equipment. My understanding is you have a personal relationship with that company as well. Opportunity to talk about that brand, how important they are to the sport, and how important they've been to you as an individual athlete.
No, they're incredible. I've been in the USA pipeline for quite some time, probably since I was around 10 years old. And they've been representing like our team for volleyball for quite some time. And we wear Mizuno for high performance camps, youth national team, senior national team, whatever it is. And I remember like wearing their gear as a kid, like getting my USA things. And I was always like so confident and just so excited that I get to represent the USA, but also like all that Mizuno gear that we would get, I would carry it around all the time from the age of 10 all the way to 26 now. I still have a lot of like the pieces and the practice gear. And I remember when I got in the senior national team, I was like, oh, these are like my favorite shirts. I'd work out in them all the time. But what I like really, really love about Mizuno is that they're very catered to the sport of volleyball, and there's not a lot of big companies that are like that. And so the fact that they like take their time and they really want good products for the specific needs of a volleyball player is something that I really love about them. And I got the opportunity to work with them last fall is when we signed, and it's just been like amazing. Like they want to get content out. They send me all my necessary things. But yeah, they're incredible. And they come out with all these new things all the time. They just came out with a shoe that's like has a kind of a, I don't want to say a platform, but there's like a foam pad that's supposed to make you jump higher. And as a smaller athlete in the sport of volleyball, I can't wait to try those out. So no, they've been amazing.
We're going to buck tradition here, Brooke. Typically we go back and forth and alternate questions, but this next question is just too damn good, quite frankly, and I want to let my partner who wrote the question ask it. Okay. So, David?
So we have an audience, despite what Tim says, we have an audience that is made up of great, sports business executives around the world, actually. We're heard in countries that we don't, certainly Wayne Gretzky doesn't know how to pronounce, and we might not. But they don't necessarily know all the ins and outs of volleyball, I don't think. Not to the level I did, as evidenced by my introduction. But you started your career when you went to college as a libero, and then you moved to outside hitter. And that seemed to make a huge difference. Now, the question is, tell our audience what the hell a libero is that might know kill or set or even dig or pass or bump, whatever, but maybe not know the libero title. So explain that to us and to our audience.
Yes. So luckily for people that don't know a lot about volleyball, when they just do an eye test and they watch a match or if they see a picture or anything, a libero is always the one in a different colored jersey. And basically, to simplify everything, we have rotations that we have to do between every point, and every single player has to go into the front row or into the back row eventually. But the libero position, if they have a different colored jersey on, they stay in the back row the entire time. And so their specialty is passing and defense. They're never going to attack or block or anything like that. So they'll never be in the front row, and their specialty is a passing and defender.
So is that one of the reasons why, because your stats are pretty unbelievable with your digs and with your hitting, that you have that skill set built into you that maybe some other outside hitters aren't quite as accomplished at?
Yeah, I switched between libero and outside hitter. So pretty much my whole USA career, maybe besides like a month or two, I was a libero. Wow. So I would be an outside hitter in club, outside hitter in middle school, high school, and then in the summertime when I would train with USA, I would be a libero. Big reason for that is, I've played the game. This is now my 20th year playing volleyball. I'm 26 years old, so I've been playing the game for a while. My touch is pretty solid because I've had just so many reps. And I'm also undersized. So for an outside hitter, a lot of these girls are 6 foot plus. I'm 5'10". And so they were always like, you think you're a little bit small to be an outside. So they would put me in a libero jersey just because my ball control was always pretty good. So I've had that just switching back and forth for so long that when I finally decided that I'm just going to be an outside hitter from now on, yes, those skills have been engraved in me, which is great because a lot of outsides don't have as good of passing and defense as me just because I've played the libero position for so long.
We have 2 questions before we let you go that we ask all our guests, and we've adjusted them a little bit because you are different than our typical guest in that you are currently a professional athlete. We've had former athletes and former race car drivers and things like that. So we're going to change it up a little bit for our listeners. We'll notice a slight difference. How did you get your start in volleyball as a 6-year-old?
I come from a volleyball family, so both of my parents played volleyball. I have an older brother as well. He's 6 years older, and he played volleyball and is now a volleyball coach. My mom coached at the University of Arkansas. She played at Arkansas State. My dad had opportunities to play in college. My brother played in college. So even when I was like an infant, my parents were playing in adult leagues, and I would go to their games, and I'd be in volleyball carts holding the volleyball. My brother, he started playing when he was 13 or 12 maybe, so I was in the gym at his practices, and I just wanted to play with all the boys that were older than me. So it's in my blood, honestly, and I just grew up around the sport, and I fell in love with it.
That's great. And the last question, what one piece of advice, excluding work hard and train hard, would you give to somebody who has aspirations to become a professional athlete, whether it be in volleyball or another sport?
I want to go back to when we were talking about negative comments and negative social media things, and just in any aspect of life, whether it's sport or not, you're going to have people that say negative things about you. And for my entire career, like I mentioned before, everyone told me I was too short to be an outside hitter. I didn't jump high enough. I wasn't physical enough. Every single level, whether that was middle school to high school, people told me that on high school varsity, or whether it was high school going into college. I was very highly recruited as a libero, but not so much as an outside hitter. And especially like college to pro or pro to national team, I've been told that at every single level. And I truly, truly believe that it really does not matter what anyone tells you or what anyone says to you, unless like you're saying those things to yourself. So if you can just go in the gym or go on the field and work your butt off every single day and not let any comment affect your mindset, I really think you can accomplish whatever you want.
That's a fantastic answer, and I know at least 2 people will never have negative comments about you.
I appreciate it.
Brooke Nuneviller, thank you for joining us. This has been a great conversation. We've learned a lot, and we certainly encourage anyone to follow Major League Volleyball and take a peek at the Omaha Supernovas, because there are good things happening. They have some interesting people involved in the ownership across the league, and a lot of people are very bullish to the point. And Brooke, I would end by saying that while you may not have figured it out yet, we think you have a great future in whatever you decide to do. We hope it'll be in and around the sports business, because I think you'd have a lot to contribute.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me too. I had a blast.
Thank you.
Well, that that was a fun conversation. As you pointed out, I don't think we've had active professional athletes before, and it was great to get that perspective in a league that's up and coming like Major League Volleyball. So we'll continue to follow Brooke's career and everything. But we have hit that time of the show where we generally take a little peek ahead to see what stories and fun things we may be following and give shout-outs, etc. So I will throw it to you, Tim. What do you have your eye on?
A couple things. On a positive note, the city of Foxborough has received assurances that they're going to get the funding they need for security around the World Cup. So they are going to grant the license to have the games played at Gillette Stadium. But other cities are saying that they still have not received funding from the Department of Homeland Security, despite the fact that it was approved and earmarked for that purpose. So that's something I'm going to keep an eye on. Second thing is the NBA is probably going to be granting expansion teams to Seattle and Las Vegas.
I only predicted that like 18 years ago, so I'm a little late on my prediction, but
Well,
I had the markets right.
yeah, and then the third thing I'm going to be watching, and third being the operative word, is the Cornell Big Red men's hockey team is going for their third straight
Shocker.
ECAC title at Lake Placid. They'll be playing the Tigers of Princeton Friday night, and the winner of Quinnipiac and Clarkson on Saturday for the championship. So I was up there last weekend. Cornell dropped the first game, but then came back and won games 2 and 3.
You going to check out the polling data while you're watching the Quinnipiac game?
A good hockey team,
I
but
know,
even a
I
better
know.
market research program. What about you?
Yeah, thanks. Good luck in that. I like joking about that, but I hope that all works out great.
I care way too much about Cornell athletics.
I hope they appreciate that. I hope they appreciate it.
Yeah, they let me buy tickets every year. They're so nice.
So a couple things. A shout out to a past guest. It's kind of interesting news that I think it surprised me a little bit, but Ahmad Nasser is no longer going to be, or effective immediately, not the executive director of Professional Tennis Players Association, but it doesn't affect apparently his role with Winners Alliance. So he's been very open about this, but this came down, I think, last week or a little over a week ago, and we just like to obviously follow past guests and what they're doing. But Ahmad was a fantastic guest, and he shared a lot of amazing things from the labor side of the business. A couple things I'm looking at on the NBA side as well. I wanted to touch on this last week, but it looks to be a good chance that the NBA is going to be looking at this kind of streaming hub for local market games sooner than they originally expected. They've already informed teams of that, and this, of course, is a result of the mainstream sports groups' impending, demise. And so we know that the league has been interested in moving in this direction. This speeds up things because of, so many of the teams not having a home for a traditional RSN. So that's an interesting story that obviously we will be following and talking about.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. They probably will not get either the Knicks or the Nets.
Right.
I'm not sure about the situation out in LA, but they'll have a fair number of teams, but they won't have them all.
Right. And then lastly, I'm heading to Chicago for some work and seeing some family. The little guy, Jamie, turns 5 soon, so we're going to have Can you believe that? Can you believe it? But so happy birthday to Jamie.
That is crazy.
But I can't wait to see him and his wonderful sister, Scarlett. So that's it. That was episode 151, as we said. I think very, very exciting. As you said in the intro, kind of letting 150 go without much fanfare was, I guess, a miss. But like I said, when we're head down, getting after it. Nose to the grindstone on this show.
It was false modesty.
Yeah, really. Big thanks to Brooke Nuneviller again for shedding light on exciting things happening at Major League Volleyball. Tim, of course, as always, thank you for a very fun discussion. Most importantly, thank you to all the listeners. Anytime that like, that share, that subscribe button comes up, we do hope you'll give it a tap. And, of course, you can go to dpandmcgee.com for all of our links. So until next time, I'm DP, he's McGhee, and we'll talk soon.